A lot of sports make no sense to me. Curling is ridiculous. Water polo is just polo for cowards. And fencing is a horrendous waste of time. But even these look normal compared to some of the lesser known sports of the world. I don't think any is weirder than Buzkashi. The name Buzkashi might sound familiar to you, but that's a whole different thing. Apparently it literally means goat pulling, which pretty much describes the sport. So you've got two teams of around 10 people, each trying to throw a ball into a hole on the playing field. It actually seems like a pretty normal game, but then you look closer and realise it's not a ball, it's a dead goat. The entire purpose of the game is fighting over a dead animal. They're allowed to be pretty violent with each other. It's actually common to see players trampled by a horse, which to be honest, I'm kind of a fan of. I'd like to see it implemented in most sports. I mean, look at this guy. That's a broken ribcage, back, neck, and probably like spleen or something. The sport comes from nomadic regions of Central Asia, so I can see the value in fighting over a goat, though I'm not sure why they throw it in a hole. But that turns out to be the best part of it. Almost every time a player tries to score, they end up falling in the goal themselves. Like this time. I mean, who loves dead goats this much? Because that's a hard landing. Some of these guys probably get knocked unconscious. Imagine waking up in a well next to a headless dead goat. In most sports that just doesn't happen. It's said to be one of the oldest sports in the world, and is actually the national sport of Afghanistan. It's a bit much to have as a national sport, but to be fair, the national sport of Canada is probably like maple syrup. At one point the Taliban outlawed it, because apparently it's too weird even for them. Personally, I'd like to see Buzkashi spread to Europe. A lot of players end up like this guy, with a mouthful of mud. I like that the horses seem to get hurt a lot less than their riders. You can't really say the same for the goats, but that's just Buzkashi. According to legend, the sport began with the Mongol invasions of Central Asia. Bands of Mongol troops would often take livestock from local villagers. The inevitable chase evolved into what's now Buzkashi. Traditionally, riders are allowed to assault each other, usually with their whip. In more modern games, you're not allowed to whip other players, but sometimes they do anyway, because why not? And here's the thing, I'm not sure there's a referee. I'm yet to see one. To be honest, a lot of this sport is just a group of men on horseback, beating each other, with a dead goat on the floor beside them. So even if you remove the goats, the bulk of Buzkashi would still be the same. And that opens the door to Buzkashi becoming an Olympic sport. So there you have it, Buzkashi, the weirdest sport I know of. During my research for this video, I came across this statue of a polo player, and there's something about it I find creepy. There's no life behind its eyes. They could have at least painted it, but they didn't. So now it's just there with its weird grey face.